This is the first episode of a series that I'm starting. I watch podcasts all the time. I'm going to be just talking about different podcasts that I listen to and kind of expanding on them and giving you my own opinions and my own thoughts on, the people they're interviewing, the topics that come up, my own experiences, my own perspectives, my own ideas. I listen to podcasts almost every single day, multiple podcasts. I love it. I love learning about new things, whether it's manifestation, spirituality, consciousness research, neuroscience, metaphysics, quantum physics, geopolitics, history, scientific, health related, lifestyle related, just a blend of a bunch of things that I like to listen to. And I like to listen to people's stories, I like to listen to people's experiences. Episode we're going to be talking about today is on Dr. Mayim Bialik's podcast. The name of this episode is called This Psychic Used Her Mind to Find Government Secrets. In this podcast, there are two hosts, Mayim and Jonathan.
We have arrived at an episode that is, I would say, the most validating and legitimate example of the understanding of extrasensory perception. Why do I say that? Because we're talking to someone who worked for the intelligence community, for the government, and for the military for over 32 years. And for 9 of those years, she was employed in a program of remote viewing. That's right, looking at things in your mind that you are not standing in front of.
She basically talks to them about her incredible journey from her childhood, out-of-body experiences, to becoming a top operative in Project Stargate, the government's classified psychic espionage program run by the Defense Intelligence Agency, or the DIA. I believe a sister program to the CIA is how she described it. In this conversation, she talks about her psychic abilities, her extrasensory perception, or ESP, how she communicates with guides and spirits, how sense energies of animals and of people, and sensing auras that have allowed her to become a useful person for the United States government. I really like that there are a lot more people with big platforms. Like Mayim Bialik has almost 2 million subscribers on her YouTube channel. She's also a well-known actress. They have a lot of what some would call controversial interviews. For a long time, it was taboo to talk about anything outside of materialism, anything outside of science-based evidence, physical-based evidence, talking about things like telepathy, extrasensory perception, and precognition, being able to predict the future, being able to go to the past, or remote viewing. Remote viewing is a name given to a set of methods or a tool that claim a person can describe or see a distant or unseen target, which could be a place, an object, or an event, without using normal sensory input. There are very structured protocols to make sure that this practice is repeatable, this practice is trainable. Angela talks about how the government had a bus shuttle system that would drive anyone who was interested in going to the Monroe Institute to basically, be exposed to this information, be exposed to the methodology, being trained on how to remote view or how to get to altered states of consciousness beyond what we experience in our normal day-to-day life. And when you get into these altered states of consciousness, your perception of reality completely changes. The Monroe Institute is a nonprofit education and research organization in Virginia that teaches and studies altered and expanded states of consciousness, especially using audio guidance technology called hemisync. So it's basically using binaural beat-based audio patterns intended to encourage specific brain state patterns. The program that they created at the Monroe Institute is called the Gateway Experience, and it's basically just a series of different tapes with this specific audio guidance technology, along with voice guidance to help protect you in this state, because obviously you're opening up a channel to the unknown, not only for your safety, but also for your own self, because if you have any fear, it might not even allow you to get into the experience and get into an altered state of consciousness because you have so much fear. It basically walks you through leaving all your worries, all your stress, your whole day, your friends, everything, leave it in a box, a really heavy box. Close it. There's nothing to worry about. You are protected. Nothing here but you and this space. You are safe. You can allow yourself to have this experience. Monroe Institute was founded by Robert Monroe in the 1950s and 60s. He was having out-of-body experiences, and he went to his doctor and was like, hey, I left my body and I was able to see my body laying in my bed. What is going on? It would happen to him randomly but often. And so when he told his doctor was like, yeah, a lot of people have reported experiences like this, and we don't understand it. We're not dismissing the experience at all, but just go explore it, go deeper. So that's exactly what Robert Monroe did with his knowledge of sound technology. I think he was an American radio broadcasting executive. He knew a lot about sound and frequencies. What if I could use frequencies to guide me into these states so that instead of them happening randomly, I can actually do it when I want to do it, and I can induce it using sound. Hemi-sync technology used to help listeners access relaxation, meditative states, sleep, focused attention, and other altered states. The reason why I'm giving you so much detail about this was because in the late 1970s and into the 1980s, the US military units and intelligence groups became interested. US military found out that the Soviet Union had an interest in psychic and parapsychology research, had their own programs funded for this, and they were training their military to remote view, allow military personnel to uncover hidden weapons of mass destruction, confidential files, going to certain conversations, seeing where people are, trying to figure out plans, if our US government had written out map and a plan of an attack, a remote viewer could potentially project their consciousness there and have a potential edge and be able to maneuver their way through that with this newfound information. It became extremely interesting to a lot of intelligence programs around the entire world. There'll be a target of some sort. Where is this country hiding these weapons of mass destruction? Then they would assign that target a number. It's important that the remote viewer has no information on what they're looking at, because that can actually bias them. It might not be truthful anymore, like information you could get from a remote viewer. Get this number and they assign it to this target, and then they get to a meditative state where they become an open channel. Because we live in an energetic universe and everything is information, and we are fully interconnected with this information. It's as if everything is a fabric, like a piece of a quilt, and we are woven in that quilt. We are completely embedded into this fabric, and we can access that information. What I love about things like this is it completely goes against everything that we know, every model we have with scientific-based evidence, with materialistic evidence. What this means is you can see without your eyes, you can perceive without your human senses, that consciousness must be fundamental, and that it's not something that arises from matter. Instead, everything else might arise from consciousness itself. That even gets to telepathy. And if you haven't listened to the telepathy tapes, definitely go listen to those. That is another amazing thing. I'm super excited to be alive at a time like this, where all of this stuff is becoming less and less taboo and more mainstream, basically telling us that the model we have in which we look at our reality and we accept as the truth is not the full truth. We have to remember that we use science as a tool. Science is a model, but science is not the full story. There's non-physical components that have a huge effect on our experience, on our reality, that we completely have dismissed. And that'll be a whole nother video. I'll talk about how from essentially the beginning of science, there was one person that decided to leave consciousness out of it, and ever since then until this day, we've left it out. Yet it is a major component of our experience, which is why people lose their licenses, people lose their doctorates and their reputation when they talk about these things, because they're real phenomena, real things that people are experiencing, but they go against materialism. I wish more and more people knew about this, more regular people knew about this, but also more researchers and scientists know about this, because I'm getting a PhD in biomedical sciences with a concentration in cancer biology right now. You know, I speak to my colleagues about some of these things, like in my lab, but they're like of my generation, whereas like I've yet to even speak to my PI about these things. I get looked at crazy when you bring these things up, and it's hard to be in science and be so grounded in spirituality and know about all these things and have such an interest in consciousness research. They're not connected right now. It limits our perception. I have to wear different hats, you know, like when I'm doing experiments and when I'm at seminars and presenting at conferences, I have to wear the materialism hat. And that's fine, because again, it is a framework that we can look at reality. I'm not saying it's not real, it's definitely real, but it's not the full picture. So trying to talk about anything that's non-physical does not make sense to anybody that's a materialist and anybody that hasn't been exposed to any of this information. So what I do is I just try to sprinkle it in here and there and get people to open their minds more. And it's a lot easier to do in younger generations, for sure. Pretty sure Angela Ford is now teaching at the Monroe Institute. But basically, as a child, she has always had out-of-body experiences. She's always been psychic. She was able to speak with like past relatives that she hasn't even met before, which was super validating for her mother. Like almost every single night, this was like a normal thing, and she would like just, you know, walk through doors or go out the window and, you know, explore. And sometimes it would be the reality in which she normally lives in, like we live in, or it would be like a different reality, a different dimension. I don't know, I've been thinking more and more about dreams and like where we go when we dream. I think everyone has dreams. I think people that think they don't have dreams just don't remember their dreams. An energetic thing, like an energetic blockage. It could be for your own safety. It could be that you have just too much stress going on. It could also be that you might not be getting into REM sleep. That could be because you have something internally going on where your body is working and not actually relaxing and repairing and recovering. There could be many reasons why maybe you could not be dreaming, or maybe you could just not be remembering your dreams. You know, when you think of dreams are infinite, right? You can dream about anything. And sometimes, you know, you can learn to lucid dream. I lucid dream essentially every single night. I remember my brother taught himself how to do it when we were younger, and he mentioned it to me. I didn't actually follow his method. He said that basically if you like drew something on the back of your hand, and like in real life, you throughout your waking day, look at the back of your hand and be like, oh, okay. You know, just randomly throughout your day, and do it for however many days, right? And every night when you go to sleep and you're dreaming, if you realize you're in a dream, you might instinctively look at your hand because you've been doing it all week. And you'll look at your hand and you'll realize that the symbol isn't there, or that it just looks different or something. And you'll realize that this is a dream, and then you can become lucid and, you know, drive your dream wherever you want to go. I never actually had to use the method. I just became aware that I was in a dream, and even before I would go to sleep, I would kind of be like, this is what I want to do tonight. Like, this is where I want to go. And I would go there. Don't know why, don't know how, but when you overthink things and you plan them out like so perfectly, they don't end up happening because like you're trying too hard. You need to actually try less and do less. I've been trying to astral project. Like I want to have out-of-body experiences, and I've had one, but I wouldn't really call it an out-of-body experience. I definitely went to a different dimension. It was fully lucid, a completely different dimension, and I recognized it. It was so strange. It was actually a nap that I was having, and I was listening to shamanic drumming. I've been trying to get into having an out-of-body experience, like, but there's also a part of fear, of course. To see your body laying in your bed is an insane idea, but there's so many people that have experienced this. I think we probably do it every night anyway. And I think that's why your body becomes paralyzed when you're sleeping, when you're in REM. Your essence, your soul, your spirit, whatever it is, leaves. So there's nothing to move your body anymore. I've had sleep paralysis many times. I don't have it as often anymore though, but I used to have it a lot as a child. And as a child, I had a lot of fear as a kid. I saw a demon right here before when I had sleep paralysis. And again, I think it was just a projection. And so I would be really, really scared. And anytime I felt my body go into sleep paralysis, because I would feel it, like, freak me the fuck out, because I would be like, something's gonna come get me. Like, there's bad energies in my room. It would be like 4 a.m, which is like the devil's hour. And I was just such a scared kid. Again, my brother was also kind of experimenting things at the time. So when I told him I had this experience, he told me, oh, just fall back asleep. I'd like open my eyes and like look around and like try to scream, but you can't even open your mouth, you can't scream, you can't do anything. Never open your eyes, okay, if you're scared. Some people have like auditory things. I never did. It was only like a visual thing. And I really stopped the experience as fast as I could, so I never went too deeply into it, even though now I'm super open to that. Years later, maybe like 10 years later, I'm trying to get to that state. And when you listen to people who have out-of-body experiences, there's stages to it. You get extremely relaxed, and then you get paralyzed. Your body gets paralyzed. And then your body starts to vibrate. Your whole entire body will vibrate. And that is actually you leaving your body. There are methods that people have. You can imagine your body like rolling out. Like, imagine your essence or whatever just rolling out of your body, or falling out of your body, like into your bed. Like, imagine here's your body and just fall into your bed like this. Or you can come out of your body, jumping out. Whatever it is that you want to do, you can do those when you're in the vibration state. I got to the vibration state recently, and then I was like, oh my God, it's happening. And the moment you think something like that and you bring yourself back full consciousness, then you're out of the experience. And so you ruin it for yourself. So I'm trying to figure out how to just forget about everything and like not think about it as it's happening, which is really hard for me to do because I get excited, but there's also like a sense of fear of like, what if I can't get back in, even though everyone says you do get back in? And like, will I be freaked the fuck out when I see my body? 100%. And people do. Like, when you first have your first out of body experience, you freak the fuck out and you come right back in your body. The next time you'll go a little further and then a little further, and then you get used to it. And that's how it was with lucid dreaming for me. So when I have my out of body experience, if I ever have it, best believe there will be a video about it. She's had these for her whole childhood, and she found herself working for the FBI, just like a regular FBI job. This had nothing to do with her being a psychic, nothing about her being the channel. Found that there was a shuttle taking people to the Monroe Institute, and she never mentioned it to anyone. She just got on the shuttle because it was open to everyone, and eventually she got approached to join the group of people, which was Project Stargate. Project Stargate was an umbrella name for a set of U.S. government programs in the 1970s to the 1995. It was funded and operationally tested remote viewing. There's so many CIA reports that have been released to the public on CIA.gov. Please go read them. Like, literally, the government has researched all of this shit because they have the funding for it. Talks about the protocols, the science behind it. So many amazing things. I'll leave links to some of my favorite ones that I've read in the description below. But again, it's crazy that people think this shit isn't real. If it wasn't real, why would our government be so interested in it? Why did they spend so much money and time invested in this? It also hurts because since people don't believe it and it's so taboo, people aren't open to using it as a tool, and they're unaware of it being a tool. You can use to get to altered states of consciousness, to relaxation, to finding yourself, spirituality. We are literally spiritual beings having a physical experience. We can not only focus on this physical reality. If consciousness is fundamental, then how much of this physical reality really matters? If consciousness is fundamental, that means it begins and it ends in consciousness. So you can influence your physical reality starting with consciousness. And you can only get to altering that and co-creating your reality when you become grounded. You become an open channel when you get into the flow state. become less of who you're trying to be, all these identities that society tells you to be and who not to be. Shed it all off, be your authentic self, and watch how magical life gets. There was a case that Angela talks about here that she's well known for, and it's the Charlie Jordan case. Charlie, or Charles Jordan, was someone who was on like the most wanted list. He was a U.S. Customs Service agent who allegedly got involved in drug smuggling. He took bribes and eventually became a fugitive. We're asking Angela, where is Charlie Jordan? And she literally was like, Lovell, Wyoming. Like, it just came to her. And what's funny is she talks about how the government or the military people there were telling her that she has to follow the remote viewing protocol, even though she was already a psychic and a channel and an intuitive, and that she gets these information instantly. You know, like, she doesn't have to follow this strategic protocol, but she was for a little bit. And then new management came in and was like, you know what, I really don't care. You know, as long as we get this information, I don't care how it is that you do it. The way that she does her channeling is through automatic writing. She will just become an open channel for the information and then write it down. And there's a lot of like mediums out there that do this too. And like all the clairs, like clairvoyance, clairaudience, like all of those things, like everyone has their own method of getting information. Everyone was like laughing at her because why the fuck would he be in Wyoming when he was like all the way on the other side, like in Florida or something? It didn't make sense. Weeks later, doing it again, and she's like, he's like 100 miles west of Lovell, Wyoming now. Like, he's heading west. And then they get a call or something saying that they like had arrested him, or he was 100 miles from Lovell, Wyoming and going west. What's funny was she was asking like, okay, so give me the reward. You know, I found this person, give me my fucking money. And they didn't give it to her because they were like, there were pictures that were circling around in the area and someone had identified him and that's how they found him. It wasn't because of what you said. When the people who actually arrested Charlie Jordan was like, no, it was because of what she said. She helped us have confidence in that because Charlie had sent a picture of himself to his mom to let him know that like he's alive, and then his mom showed the picture to the FBI, and then they like released a bunch of photos around Wyoming, and that's why he had left. She played a huge part in them actually finding him. Just the best proof of how real this shit is. Like, she had no information. He was in a state that no one even believed he would be in. It made no sense. She also talks about how when she was younger, she saw like a UFO, and she had some like out-of-body experiences that took her to dimensions where there were non-human beings, like grays and aliens. And what I think is interesting is how often it is that people that are intuitives or channels or psychics or mediums or have any sort of like extrasensory perception, they tend to see UFOs. For example, Bashar or Daryl Anka, like, he saw a UFO, and then he saw a UFO again, like twice in broad daylight with his friends, with witnesses. Now he's a channel for Bashar, who is supposedly a gray. Stuff is just amazing, and the information that comes from these channels is out of the human mind. Like, this is not something humans think about and say on their own. This is information outside of humans. It's insane for us to think that we're the only ones in the universe that exist. I don't even know if I believe that there are people out there that think we are the only things in the universe. She also talks about being able to read babies, and that babies can tell her like why they're here, you know, like their purpose. And I think that's really interesting because babies are pure consciousness, untouched. You were just in, let's say, heaven, and your soul decided to plug into this game for this experience, for the conscious expansion and evolution, and you get birthed into this world. No one has really taught you who you are. You don't have an identity yet. I believe that our souls choose our lives before we come here. And I think that we choose major life events, we choose our parents, we choose our environment. I think the overall purpose is for the collective expansion, consciousness expansion, right? Like, we are all what some would say God or the universe or the source, that energy that people like to name. That energy is all that exists. Like, that is the only thing here. It wants to know itself. It knows itself through itself. And it's created an illusion of separation, me and you, thinking that we are different and we identify differently and we perceive our life through a different lens, through different shapes and like experience. And we learn from each other and we learn about ourselves through each other because we're mirrors for each other. So like when you say something and I think something, that's showing me like what I believe. The last thing I want to touch on with this podcast is actually the conversation that Mayim and Jonathan have after they're done interviewing Angela. They have like a little 5-10 minute chat about what they thought. Mayim is a PhD. She's a critical thinker. She's used to like hard scientific evidence. She thinks really deeply about things. Whereas Jonathan, which I'm just finding out in this episode, like how spiritual he is. He was trained to do Reiki at the age of 17. And they talk about like how they met in this podcast and like how that was just a major synchronicity. They received this episode completely differently. Mayim talks about how like this bothers her. You know, this stuff bothers her because she doesn't understand that experience because she hasn't experienced it herself. And I think that is the key to all of this is it's not about reading a book. It's not about watching a podcast. It's not about conversations. It's about experience. I can give you every book, all the metaphysical books. You can talk to the monks, the Buddhists, all the shamans, and the best spiritual teachers ever. Yet, if you still don't experience even a taste of what they're talking about, then it means nothing to you. It still doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. The only way that I get this is because I've had major synchronicities in my life. Insane synchronicities. I've had moments in my life where I found out that God exists. I found out that our life is orchestrated and that there's something bigger beyond me, this me. I meditate every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. I know how to ground myself. I know how to love myself. I journal. Journaling is amazing. Channeling, I'm getting into channeling. And I think that's what Mayim is struggling with. She believes these people that they are having these experiences, but like she was even mentioning that she can't even meditate. She like brings up Albert Einstein and you know, that they kind of kept their gut on the side while they calculated. And I think that definitely, like, Albert Einstein was what he would do is when he came across a problem or like a problem in an equation that he was solving, he got stuck, or if he had a question, he would, you know, have that question in mind. Or he'd pick up his violin and he'd become one with the violin. His mind would turn off. There would be no more thoughts anymore, no more thinking, no more nothing. He just became a channel. And he gets into a state of flow. You become one with the instrument. Nothing exists. Time doesn't exist. And you become a channel to information that we all have access to all the time. That's what Nikola Tesla would do. That's what Thomas Edison would do. That's what Albert Einstein would do. There's ways to get to these states and receive information outside of your own mind. They've invented the majority of the things that we still use to this day, years later. She was just bothered about not being able to understand this on a personal level. And again, Jonathan and also Angela, they talk about like, you have to get to a point where you experience it. This is my message to people too. Find tools in your life that allow you to have experiences outside of this reality. Find things that put you in a state of flow. Do you like painting? Do you like playing the drums or the guitar? Any sort of like kind of mindless thing, something that you get lost in. You're not thinking. Think about Olympic athletes. They train and train so hard every day to get to a point where it is automatic. If they did think about what they were doing, they would hesitate and they'd actually fuck up. They get to a point where they are just, they are the dancer, they are the swimmer, and they just swim. So you can channel the energy. Like if you're playing basketball, you can channel your inner Michael Jordan. Quite literally, you are connected to those energies, to the energy of everyone that has ever existed. You can become that and embody that frequency, embody that energy, channel that energy, play like Michael Jordan, meditate, right? Just, you know, go out in nature. Nature literally grounds us. Birds also like don't sing if there are predators around. So if you hear birds singing, you know that you're safe, and your body knows that because we are one with the earth. And the more you are outside, the more connected you feel and grounded you feel, and it allows you to feel safe. And when you feel safe, then your body can relax. That is like the most important thing. Finding things that help you feel safe. Maybe when you're about to go to sleep, you do this. Maybe it's when you're taking a bath. Maybe it's when you're with someone that makes you feel safe. You can just kind of let go and take a nap and just maybe be in their arms or whatever it might be. Just let go. Get like a weighted blanket, something that makes you feel safe. Journaling. Put something about putting a pen to a paper, taking your thoughts, getting them out of your head, and opening your mind. And then like information will just come through. So yeah, there are a lot of tools out there that I think everyone should spend time looking into, especially if you get bothered by this information because you're like, well, I don't think it's true because I haven't experienced it, or I want to understand this, but I'm frustrated because I haven't experienced it. And I feel like that's what Mayim is talking about. Also, you got to think about like divine timing. You will have your experience exactly when you're supposed to. You might not be ready for it. One of my favorite people to talk about when I bring this up is Dr. Federico Fagin, a well-renowned quantum physicist. He invented the first CPU, the computer processing unit, had a extraordinary experience where, you know, he woke up, he went to go drink water, and then he went back to bed, and then he just had a light just burst out of his chest, and it was just pure consciousness, this scintillating light. He knew that this was real, that it was actually happening in front of him. It wasn't a hallucination, it wasn't a dream. He was fully awake, fully conscious, and just realized that that energy was him. It was love, it was pure, and it was him, that he was of that energy, and that everything is of that energy. And so like someone who was a hardcore materialist was trying to see if AI and quantum computers could become conscious and sentient, now realized that that is not possible. He completely shifted to trying to bridge spirituality and science. I love that, but he had to have that experience to get to this point. He dismissed it completely. It was taboo. He did not understand until he did. This happens differently for everyone, and I think we're all on our own journeys. If it's something you truly want to have, then obviously you have to do inner work. Maybe there's something else you need to be focusing on, and so find whatever that is. Ask the universe, like ask yourself, journal, figure out what are you feeling? Why are you feeling these emotions? Is there trauma you haven't processed? Are you in physical pain? Why are you in physical pain? Become connected with your body. And then once you become connected with your body, that already is doing so much for you. It's a different journey for everyone, but everyone has access to this. Everyone can do these abilities, and it's clear, even though I myself am not a medium, am not a psychic, none of these things, I know that anyone can do this. And not being so embedded in this physical reality and thinking that this is all that there is, and allowing yourself to experience something else and being open to that. And that's how we expand. If you happen to watch this podcast, let me know what you thought. I hope you enjoy this episode, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the series. I'll see you in the next one.